So why is it that you lose motivation on the spiritual journey? Why does it feel like there's a loss of motivation the further I go on the spiritual journey? Now, when I'm talking about motivation here, I'm not talking about motivation pertaining to the spiritual journey. It's not that you become less motivated to continue on the spiritual journey. This question is addressing the motivation for worldly activities. Maybe the motivation for your job, or your motivation to always be around your friends, or the motivation to go to the bar, go to the movies, entertainment, this type of motivation. Why does it feel like I've lost that motivation for the worldly stuff? That the more I progress on the journey, I'm starting to notice that I'm losing that motivation. There's a loss of interest. And this motivation and this interest is very related. Are you motivated to do things that you are not interested in? No. See? So when there's a loss of interest in these worldly things, there's also going to be a loss of motivation. Now, there's an even deeper relationship here between this interest and this motivation. That this interest and this motivation is really the movement of attention. Motivation refers to movement. Now, do you attend anything that you're not interested in? To attend is to move. Attention is an activity. Attention is a movement. When you're no longer interested in getting drunk at the bar with your friends on a Friday, you're no longer moved to attend to the bar. The experience is, I'm just not interested anymore in that. I'm just not motivated. One time I was motivated to party and get hammered with my buddies. But I'm just not moved to do that anymore. With the spiritual journey, it's really that we lose interest in the things that we believed would make us happy. Going to the bar, getting hammered, makes me happy. Until you realize it doesn't make you happy. Until you realize it's never made you happy. You only believe that it was making you happy. But in truth, it doesn't really make you happy. A lot of these things, these worldly things, there's a belief that they will make me happy. Now, this belief that something is going to make you happy is a very strong motivator. You're moved to do that thing because it appears to be happiness. You do that thing, and then you realize, I'm not happy. I'm still unfulfilled. I'll need to do something else. And now you're moved to do that. You're moved to do this. You're moved to do that. And it continues. You're continuing to move towards this happiness. That you believe to be in these things. And when these things are seen to not make you happy, you very quickly lose motivation. You're not moved to do it anymore. And this loss of motivation is easy to see when the things that you thought would make you happy are actually things that you are suffering. When you think that the alcohol is making you happy, and then you start realizing that actually you're suffering the alcohol, then you start to lose interest in it. You're not moved to participate in that anymore. So you could see it from two different perspectives. Happiness is a very strong motivator, and suffering is a very strong motivator. Both are motivators. You're moved to happiness or you're moved from suffering. If that night out with my friends, drinking 12 beers at the bar, super late night, is seen to be my happiness, I'm moved to that. After a while, it's now becoming problematic. Fights at the bar, late night, affecting family life or work life, hungover the next day, ruining relationships with my friends because there's just this compulsive anger that comes out every time I'm drunk, makes a mess of the night. Well, now I'm no longer moving to that. I'm actually moving away from that. That's not seen to be happiness anymore. That's actually seen to be suffering. I thought it was happiness, but actually that's unhappiness. Now I'm moving away from it. So like I said, you can see it however you want. We're always moving away from suffering towards happiness. Because if we are moving towards happiness, this is some honest truth here, then we are suffering. Because happiness is the absence of suffering. If I'm currently moving towards happiness, it means that I'm currently unhappy. So if we don't like that word suffering, then we can just swap it with unhappiness. If I'm currently unhappy, I'm motivated to be happy. I'm going to move towards happiness. I'm going to move away from unhappiness. So then when we start seeing a lot of these activities being associated with suffering, I'm now moving away from them. I'm losing interest in them pretty quickly. When you start seeing clearly like this. So there's this loss of interest. Because there's loss of interest, there's also loss of motivation. I'm not moved. The attention is not moving towards a point of interest. And that's what the attention has habitually been doing. It's been just simply moving to this point of interest or that point of interest or this point of interest or that point of interest. These are objects. And the attention is an activity. The attention is moving to these objects. And when it loses the interest in these objects, we're using that word to also refer to activities. Activities are objective. When I'm losing that interest in getting drunk at the bar, then the attention no longer moves to that object / activity. And when enough of this is happening, that you're seeing that this stuff that I've been attending is not actually making me happy. And I'm unhappy with these objects that they are seeing that they cannot make me happy. Then we quickly lose interest in it. Unless there is still a belief. And this is what I call kind of this 1 foot in, 1 foot out. You're kind of testing the waters. What's this spiritual journey about? Are you sure there's no? I just received a comment like that on one of the previous videos. Are you sure that the happiness cannot be found in objects? That was the question. Are you sure? When there's still this kind of, there's hope for the happiness to be in the world, then you are still kind of, going to those things. It's as if there's still hope. There's still hope that there's happiness to be found in the world. But to come to the realization that there's no happiness, that what you're looking for is not worldly. The happiness that you are seeking is not found in the world. When this starts becoming more and more clear, you naturally lose interest in these things. And not from a place of force. This losing interest is actually effortless because it takes effort to be interested in those things. It takes effort to be interested in going to the bar every Friday. It takes effort to move to the bar. It takes effort to attend the bar. It takes effort to go to the movies. It takes effort to plan this and that with your friends. So you just start seeing that, well, this is a lot of effort being made to move to these things that I once believed would make me happy. But now I'm seeing that they're not making me happy. I tried the bar, didn't work. I tried drinking, I thought it worked. I thought it kind of made me happy. I started drinking more, thought it's making me a little happier, started drinking even more. Now I'm suffering. It's not working. The way that the mind goes about this, it's not making me one sports car. There was a belief that would make me happy. Felt like I was happy for a moment when I first got the car, when I first brought it home. The next day, I'm not happy. No, I need an upgrade for the car. I need to add this to the car. I need to go somewhere with the car. All of this, it's never ending. It's unfulfilling. It didn't actually satisfy that hunger for happiness. You're still hungry. You get the car, you're not satisfied. You're not fulfilled. Oh, okay, well, I just need another car then. So now there's another desire. And we're only actually experiencing that happiness when the desire comes to an end. Because really, happiness is the end of desire. That when you're happy, you are actually desireless. It's the end of personal desires. All of the desires are actually for happiness. The desire for money is actually the desire for money because the money is seen to be a way that you can buy objects that you believe to make you happy. So there's just the desire for happiness, you could say. Or if you want to speak about it spiritually, we could say all desires are for God. So it's only God that's going to fulfill you. It's only happiness that will fulfill that hunger, because that hunger is for happiness. So when that desire comes to an end, the desire to get the car, and then you purchase the car, now I have the car, that desire has been fulfilled. That's the end of that desire. Now you are desireless. The attention desired, it was so interested in the car. It wants to go to the car. It's trying to get to the car, trying to get to the car, trying to get to the car. And you bought the car. The desire has been fulfilled. Now the attention returns to its source. It's no longer desiring the car. It's now desireless. You're not interested in the car anymore. Why? Well, you got it. And now you're experiencing the happiness, which is when the attention has returned back to its source. The attention's no longer going to that point of interest anymore. That desire has been fulfilled. There's a letting go of interest. You've lost the interest in the car because you have the car now. You don't need to get it. And the attention relaxes and it's resting in its source. And there's the experience of happiness until there's a new desire. And the new desire is now I want to go on a road trip with this car, or I want to get an upgrade for this car, or I want to repair it in some way. Or now I need a partner to drive in the car with me. So now there's a new point of interest. There's now a new motivation. So it makes it feel as if the car brought me the happiness because I did experience happiness when I got the car. But if we don't see it this clearly, we attribute the car to being the source of happiness. But the car is not the source of the happiness. The source of the happiness is experienced when there's actually the loss of interest in that point of interest. The attention is no longer going to that point of interest, and it comes back to its source. Now that source is the source of happiness. That's why you would experience the happiness after the goal has been fulfilled. Because when the goal has been fulfilled, it's the end of that desire, leaving you desireless. The experience of happiness is that you don't desire anything. If you're happy, you're not lacking anything. You don't need anything. It's the end of personal desires. You're not experiencing the happiness and saying, I mean, this isn't good enough. I mean, I want a burger with this happiness. No, you're not. It's not that. It's not that. It's complete contentment. It's complete contentment. So the activity of the mind is always creating these points of interest, and the attention is constantly going outward, moving to the points of interest. Now, when we lose our motivation in these worldly activities and objects, this is, in a way, the attention is being withdrawn from those points of interest. So therefore, you're feeling this feeling that doesn't feel normal. You feel like, I'm not interested in anything. And at that stage, the contrast in what you usually were experiencing, it kind of feels dull or flat. This in between, especially if you're in this stage of dabbling, that the points of interest are still there, sort of, where you're not, like I said, it's that 1 foot in, 1 foot out. It's this curiosity. I'll stop going to the bar if the spiritual teacher can give me a guaranteed happiness. Question I just got just like the other day. Can you guarantee me? It wants the certainty. It wants the certainty. I'll do a one-on-one session with you, but can you guarantee me happiness in that session? The mind wants that certainty. It wants that certainty. So it sees this kind of coming back, losing interest. It's always kind of fighting that in a way. There's a natural calling. It's that calling home. There's that call. You get the call, right? That's what these videos are. They're the invitation. You get the invitation. And, you start coming. But then there's like, wait, hold on. What about, you sure it's not out there? Maybe I just need more friends. Maybe I just need more cars. Maybe I just need a better job. It's always about more and better. I'm not happy just because my house isn't big enough. My wife isn't pretty enough. I don't have enough money in the bank. It's this never enough. But that lack, that hunger is the hunger for the true fulfillment. And there's no worldly objects or activities that will fulfill you. You can't just believe me on that. It does require you to have some experience trying to get the best job, trying to build a big business, trying to get the prettiest girl, trying to get the wealthiest man, trying to all of these things, the biggest home, all of you have to sort of, you could say, play the game to then realize you can't win happiness the way you're playing, which is seeking the happiness in objects and activities. So there's this loss of interest, loss in motivation, and the attention is no longer moving, you could say, we speak like this, outwardly. The attention is no longer going towards worldly things. It's no longer so locked on, your friends, their meetups, coffee dates. So there's just kind of this feeling of, I'm just not interested in that anymore. I'm just not interested in smoking weed and playing video games. I'm just not interested in going to the movies all the time. I'm just not interested in dinner parties. And you might actually start losing interest in your job because you start seeing that your job is no longer making you happy. Or perhaps your relationship's no longer making you happy. So you start experiencing this loss of motivation, this worldly motivation. But it's part of the process. Because like I said, it's that attention that's being withdrawn. And as that attention's being withdrawn, it's no longer moving in an outward direction. It's no longer moving away from the source, you could say. And there's no effort being sustained. That interest is what sustains the activity of attention. If I'm not interested in a book anymore because it's garbage when I'm 50 pages in, I'm not interested in reading the book anymore. So I'm not motivated to turn the page and continue reading. I'm not motivated to even pick up the book anymore. So I lose interest in the book and I'm making no effort to read the book anymore. I've lost so much interest in this book, I don't even want to bother making the effort to pick up the book and continue reading it. That's how much I've lost interest in it. So in this sense, this is what's happening with the attention. You're losing interest in these things. You're no longer sustaining those activities. You're no longer making any effort. And as you go deeper in this spiritual journey, you're losing the interest in even some of these activities like hatha yoga or chanting or these type of meditations. So see, some of this stuff, actually you even lose interest as you go further on the journey. You're losing interest in even the spiritual stuff. You're losing interest in just not another satsang, not another this, not another video, not another book, all the things that you kind of go from these worldly things to now these kind of spiritual things, but then even the spiritual things, you're even losing interest in the spiritual stuff. Until you get to this point of not making any effort. That it just feels like you've lost all motivation. Lost all motivation. Not interested in anything. I'm not even going to sustain any of this. What's this experience like? Well, most would call this failure. Most would call this failure. But let me give you a different perspective on failure. That failure is actually success. And that won't be understood. It can only be experienced. Another perspective that I can give you is that this failure, I'm talking complete failure. Complete failure. Because when you lose interest in a lot of these things and no motivation is there anymore, you're not moved to do anything about it. You're not making effort to sustain your friend relationships, maybe even your intimate relationships or your job or some of these things, they naturally are just falling away because they take a certain amount of energy to sustain it. But when you aren't making effort to sustain these things, you're seeing how much energy was being put into them. And it's this reverse process of actually, instead of the energy going outward to these worldly things, the energy is now being withdrawn back to where it came from. Now, where did the energy come from? Well, you could say that the energy came from the source. If this attention is going always towards objects of interest, where's the attention coming from? The attention's coming from the source. If the attention's always moving towards objects, well, how much movement is needed to come back to the source? If the attention is an activity that requires effort to move to these points of interest, these worldly objects and activities, how much effort is needed to come back to the source? So we start seeing that this is actually happening now. It's not really what's happening, it's actually more of what's not happening. What's not happening is there's no point of interest being created. There's no movement to go out to worldly objects and activities. There's no effort being made. And that's when this activity of attention is now at rest. It's resting in its source. It's resting in its source, and you are completely desireless. There's no effort being made. There's no resistance to what's happening. Right before this experience, if you're used to, as we all are, the worldly objects and activities, to feel like you've lost interest in that and to feel like that has all just let you down, and to see that as you're losing interest in it, it's literally falling away, crumbling, being let go of. And all of this, remember, is what you would call your life. Your relationship, your job, your friends, all of these things you're calling your life. You are simply seeing that there's a letting go of your life. And this letting go is not done by any effort. You're not trying to throw away your life. That takes too much effort. It's effortlessly let go of. You're losing interest in everything that you know. What you know is your life. You're losing interest in the known. And you're making no effort. There's no more fighting this process. Perhaps there was a fighting before, earlier, which that's what I was saying, is this 1 foot in, 1 foot out. This kind of curiosity. What's this journey? I mean, if there's a guaranteed chance at happiness, I'll do it. But if not, then I'm going to try and get hammered tonight. It's this point of seeing that everything in a way has let you down. Everything has failed you. That's actually when you would hit the true rock bottom, you could say. That this is now complete failure. Now, this complete failure is just another word. This failure is another word for surrender. For one that doesn't even know spiritual language, it would just feel like complete failure. It would just feel like failure. But this failure is actually surrender. And it's with this surrender that you discover the happiness. And you see that, or I should say, you realize that you are this happiness. You go from being a complete failure to feeling like you are the ultimate success. You see that you failed your way to success. You feel like you've let go of everything. And that's what this happiness cost you, was letting go of everything. The happiness is free, but it will cost you everything. And now you are fulfilled, finally. You're free from everything. You failed your way to freedom. So this hitting rock bottom, this complete failure, actually is surrender. That you are just seeing that all of these things that you once believed in, once would make you happy, then you saw that they aren't really making you happy. So then you almost double down on them. I just need more, a better job, a bigger home, more friends. And then that's not working out either. So now you're seeing that this is unhappiness. I'm losing interest in this unhappiness. I'm now moving away from this unhappiness. It's this return journey back home. You're losing interest in everything. You're not motivated. to do any of that anymore. You're not making any effort to sustain any of that. And unless you are resisting that process, then it's very smooth. It's very graceful. Things just kind of fall away. Unless we try and hold on, grab, and let me just put some more effort here and let me put some effort here. But if it's very graceful, effortless, graceful is effortless, grace is effortless, then that just kind of falls. It effortlessly falls away. But it does leave you feeling that emptiness. It leaves you feeling empty. And you're just left with that emptiness, that it's like an empty stomach, this hunger. And by just remaining with that emptiness, remaining with that feeling of just hitting rock bottom, feeling that failure, by feeling it fully, you see that it's actually just one side of the coin. It feels like failure, but on the other side of the coin is success. It feels like quitting, but on the other side, it's winning. It feels like surrender, but on the other side, it feels like victory. And at that point, you have realized what you are. Hopefully this helps. See you in the next one.